Good evening. Next news. Inside Bill Gates meeting with his foundation staff after his $200 billion bombshell. How do we get people to care? Fortune. Bill Gates and Gates Foundation CEO Mark Sussman met their employees with a combination of optimism and rage. Below are your comments. The problem around the world is not the lack of technology or medicines, it is unstable and despotic governments that do not support the well-being of millions, maybe billions, of people in the US and Europe, throw in Canada, too, have the cultural and ethical foundations that are required. See more. Is the US is considered one of the world's richest nations because it is $36 trillion in debt? How does that make any sense at all? Even Bill Gates and Warren Buffett combined couldn't make a dent in that much debt. In fact, if you add up the combined wealth of the Forbes 400 wealthiest individuals, they only total $4.5 trillion. $4.5 trillion is a staggering amount of wealth, but it doesn't begin to cover the national debt. The money may reduce the problem, but when that's gone, the problems will come right back. Some count our IEs and the people in them just don't bother to get better. The culture would need to change. China and India are among the richest countries in the world. If their vast GDP monies can't fix their problems, then Bill Gates has no chance. An interesting choice to spend the $200 million. That amount of money, properly invested and metered out, could provide more limited services for generations. As currently spent, the money, and the good it brings, will be gone in one generation. CEO Mark Sussman spoke for many when he expressed rage at the cuts in aid from wealthy countries. Mark Sussman makes $1.7 million a year in this role. I wonder how many lives that could save. I guess he is raging because the average American, each and every one of us, is already on the hook for $100,000 of the US debt, and that is not enough. All while he gets richer in the process. Spend $200 billion to reduce disease and death among the world's poorest, less you can change entire governments in many countries and how they think they get to control their own people from a position of being dictatorship. They will be throwing away $200 billion. The less that changes, nothing will change. Africa has only received trillions of dollars over many years. And yet nearly the entire continent is still hand-to-mouth survival. The foundation is scrambling after USAID cuts, and understandably so. The problem with USAID was it was taxpayer-funded charity that did not go to taxpayers. Helping others should always be voluntarily. We need laws that don't permit non-profits with tax-free privileges to aid organizations outside the U.S. It's one thing if Gates wants to give his after-tax money to other countries, but we taxpayers should have to foot the bill. Not to mention that it won't be unusual if a chunk of money sent to third-world countries is diverted to some of their local Swiss accounts. All of these so-called charities are tax-deferred or deductible, so most of the funds are tax dollars at work. How much money do you think these rich would donate if it was not tax-deductible? Zero. Was waiting to have a flat fixed at the tire store this morning when the mechanic approached a very nice young woman and showed her that 2 air filters in her car were needing to be replaced. She could only afford to fix one. Many people are just barely getting by right now. Add some tariff costs and the situation gets worse. Gates is generously trying to help the poor of the world. We have many poor people living right here. Finding oneself is a crucial step towards personal growth, but it requires emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Without a clear blueprint, achieving unity and collective care can be chaotic, as evident in the ropey we see in society. To foster a more compassionate and caring community, we need to start with encourage self-reflection, emotional intelligence, and empathy. By building supportive networks and promoting shared understanding, we can have the foundation to saint art to work towards creating a more harmonious and caring society. Hard if we are living on a heightened fight or flight spectrum, wasting energy and battery fighting shadows. This the same Bill Gates who loved to fly on the Lolita Express with Epstein. He's not a humanitarian, he loves to control global health, which he essentially does through his foundation, despite lacking any credentials or education. What he won't do is anything to help all the poor people in his own country or do anything to address the insane wealth gap. Stop worshipping him like a peasant might have worshipped royalty in Europe. Maybe people don't care about his foundation because about 10,000 Microsoft employees were laid off recently. He has billions of dollars. Does he help former employees that he laid off get back on their feet? They have rent, mortgages to pay. Until Africa and other poorer countries have stable governments, nothing will change. You could spend $1 trillion and nothing would change. Until their governments are no longer corrupt and selfish, stealing from the people per se. Same goes for some parts of Asia, controlled by tyrannical warlords like Myanmar, and parts of Central and South America. Instead of shipping handouts to these areas, build a municipal water system. Help them establish farms so they can grow their own food instead of relying on U.S. surplus handouts. That money can do a lot of good. Wonder how much the net donations after all the skimming, salaries, rents, etc. 5%? Bring back the charitable contribution deduction, and if the government gets out of the way and let private people fill in the gap. Wait a minute. Mr. Climate Change. Bill Gates flew in hundreds of employees from China, India, Africa and elsewhere instead of having a Zoom meeting? How much more CO2 did that add to the environment? Gates will alleviate poverty by alleviating people, not hard to figure him out. How do you get people to care, you ask? Hire the NJ personality people and those who have faced a difficult life, the poor ones with little to no resources that would break their last piece of bread with you. They are out there. Give a man a fish, he will eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he will eat for a lifetime. Give $1 to a charity, and 5% goes where you think it is going because the rest goes to adminis. Trade-off costs. If USAID hadn't been involved in fraud, they would still be providing funding. So, don't shift the blame. To show you how wasteful the foundation is, this conference could have been done using a Teams meeting. Also, this focus on eliminating global diseases noble, is misguided. Diseases are nature's way of keeping our population in check. Mitigate them, but don't eradicate them entirely. A better use for the foundation's largesse is to mitigate global warming by buying the rainforests of Brazil and giving it back to the Brazilians as an eco-tourist venture. This way, you greatly reduce the deforestation of the rainforests and protect its flora and fauna. Bill Gates' legacy would then be the man who stopped global warming, and our descendants would be more appreciative of this direct effect on their welfare. How about you get your peers to care? Facebook causes more damage in an hour than any other force in the world to the poor and vulnerable. So long as the ad brings in revenue, Facebook doesn't care how destructive the product. In fact, Facebook rarely takes down fraudulent ads without massive complaints. In other words, get your billionaire buddies to care first. I feel sorry about the people who don't appreciate Gates' philanthropy. I applaud him for any and every effort his foundations and the people working with them improve lives. We should all stick together as a world and stop picking each other apart. We in a rich nation take for granted the luxury of being able to survive. Our worst conditions are better than some poorest countries' best conditions. If we all made some improvements in our own philosophy and started thinking about how we can do anything, to help each other, the world would be a better place. Bill Gates is worth over $100 billion, and I wonder if he ever thinks about people who can't afford housing, medical care, or dental care in Seattle. He has enough money to solve a lot of domestic problems, but I don't hear anyone talking about him just spending his own. Buffett is telling him to invest in the Vanguard Standard & Poor's 500 fund, which has a 10-year net return of 12% annual, then he can't spend that money unless he wants to help people here who need help now. Something to ponder in our winner-take-all society. If you have an unstable area, pouring money into that area to help people ends up in the hands of those who are specifically making the area unstable. And exporting said people in mass just makes the areas they are moved into to unfortunately destabilize as they bring their culture with them. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.